Welcome to another Harry's Hobbies video, where I'm working on the Marshall's Boat and Gas Diorama from Foss Scale Models. And in this particular instance, I'm working on the Weaver's gas station part of the diorama. So let's get started on that. Now, before we get started on the actual building itself, I have changed blades in the X-Acto knife, and this one has the new blade. So these have become the backups. This is backup number 1 and backup number 2, and they progressively get duller as time goes on and you use them. So this one is actually the latest and newest blade, so it's still got a little bit of sharpness to it. So that'll be secondary backup, and this will be the third backup. And this is what I use to trim, like when this is hanging over and I had to get rid of some of the sand like this, because this blade is still dull, but it's still usable enough to continue on. So with that said, this is the Wallace basic part of the assembly process. I've done the stucco walls, and I've got the base coat for the main color of the other two walls. But what's needed are these little goodies right here. These are the windows, and we're going to start with the assembly of these. So they need to be removed from the tree. So we take and just run a little light cut along where the laser cut has left a small nib, and you just draw the X-Acto knife along the nib, and these will pop right out of the frame. And you just take a little tap, and we've got the windows out there, and then we get the frames out in the same manner. That we just did. And of course these have already been painted. Now these are 2-piece windows, and the second piece to these is right on the top of the main piece. And we get these separated. So we have the windows separated, and I'll turn these over so that the back side that is not painted is not the one that's going to take the glue. And I'm placing the frames inside the windows themselves. And what I'll do is I get out the Gorilla Super Glue gel, and I'll open it up. Then we'll get a toothpick And I'll put a little glue right around this top edge to hold the main part of the window frame in. And then around this side edge as well. And the side one. And this is where the gel comes in very handy, as it doesn't set up as quickly as the other ones. So with that, we have one window ready to go when that glue sets up and gets good and dry. So I'll go ahead and do the other two. So now that we have those done, we give them ample time for the Gorilla Glue to set up and get dry. So we'll move on to a couple of the doors. And once again, these are in two pieces. So we do the same thing here. And cut them out of the framework. And again, this is a very nicely done kit. The laser cutting is very good quality. Now, here's the trick to these. We have two pieces that have got the flat spot here and two that do not. So basically these go on top of one another. So this will go on relatively quickly, I hope. And again, we use the Gorilla Glue. And I like to put just a touch around a couple of the edges at the top initially. And that's to give me time to line everything up without getting glue all over my fingers. They sit down right on top. Like so. And then I take another little dab of glue. Lift this up and just put it right underneath. And we press that down, and this sets up quick enough that you don't have to sit here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes and wait for it to set up. That's door number one done. Door number one. Come on down. And you do the same thing to the other door. And get that one to line up. Then we put that little dub right underneath the bottom edge and press that down. And we set that up to dry. Now you may have to touch up the paint a little bit since that glue will ooze. Just slightly, which is not a big deal because we're going for a weathered look anyway, so even though you paint it, some of that might still show through. And next up we have the garage door, which this isn't going to be all that spectacular because there's going to be, I'm not going to be gluing anything here until this window gets to go inside the garage itself. And this will fit in like so. And I'm going to go with this particular window. I just kind of like the looks of that one a little bit better. And we'll get into that when I get ready to install. But for now, I'm going to give these plenty of time to dry out. And then I'll be back with the other video of how I'm going to actually do the glass panes for this, which will be a little bit different than the other model. So stand by for that. It's upcoming shortly.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Well, I've given ample time for the window frames to dry. That's these little dudes right here. This little dude right here anyway. And what I've gone ahead and done is, so I don't bore everyone to tears, I've gone ahead and I've installed most of them onto the model. You can see here and here, and I have also added the clear plastic. But the thing about that is it comes as a pretty clear sheet. So what I do is I take it and I sand it on both sides. And the reason I do both sides is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps to diffuse the light a little bit more, which is exactly what I want. And the number two reason is the glue that I use holds this better on the basswood of the model itself. And it also facilitates much, much better gripping of any clear paints that I use to add a little bit of color to the lighting aspect of it. So I'm going to show you how I install, and this is the last window that'll go in here. And you want to make sure, since this is a two-piece window, that you get the frames right, so that it looks like that the sills can be opened and closed. And we place this up here and make sure it's going to fit correctly. And then I take the good old Gorilla Glue gel. And in this case, I'll be taking the cap off and using a toothpick. Get a little bit on the toothpick. And then I go around the very edges of where the frame will actually sit. And then I spread that out just a little bit. You don't want to get it too thin, but you don't want to have it too thick for obvious reasons. And then we take the frame itself and line it up to where you want it to fit. Press it down into place. And then I take another toothpick that doesn't have that much glue on it and spread out any seepage that takes place and just kind of thin that out a little bit. And then on the inside, this is where this kind of, I call it fogging out the windows, or the plastic. And I do a similar thing, and I take some glue, get it on the toothpick again, and I put it around where that plastic piece is going to sit. Now the advantage to this is it's not critical where the glue is going to seep, and any kind of gases that are released, because gases do get released from the super glue, that will actually help to fog it out just a hair more. And then we take our plastic piece and we line it up inside so that it covers the area of the window. And I'm not concerned with the overhang right now. And we get that to seat into place. And it doesn't take long with this wooden plastic for the glue to set up and hold that in place. And then you come back to any overhang that you're really concerned about and just slice it off like that, because the roof will cover this up and you're not going to see that anyway. And there we have the windows installed. All the way around. And that's how I go about installing these. And show a little bit of the inside too. And once again, I'll shoot some pictures, get some close-ups, so that you can see how this ends up looking a lot closer up. So stand by for that. Always put the lid back on so that the glue doesn't dry out and get all crispy and crunchy and unusable. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the slideshow, and thanks for watching.